Morning, everyone. Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope everyone makes glorious gains today. I sure did. Another beautiful day, and it's really good that I got my headphones back. I was trying the whole no headphones thing, but I just can't do it. I really like the sensation, like I love the zone that I get with heavy metal. Like, I know the whole point of people like David Goggins is for it to be self-induced. It placing yourself in the zone without the need of some sort of external stimulation such as music. But I enjoy it, so I'm going to keep it on, and I like it. So but I did get new headphones, um so it's back on. But aside from that, I wanted to go ahead and continue to talk about this whole truth thing. Yesterday I only read quite a bit. I'm still on the first chapter of Beyond Good and Evil. I'm about to wrap it up though. It's just work. I forgot how you really have to dive in and really take your time in understanding and digesting, the claims that are being made in the book, which is, it's really good. It makes you, uh, it's fun. And the reason I wanted to go ahead and continue to talk about truth is because, he's really driving home Nietzsche. I mean, he's really driving home the true relativity in relations to truth and ideologies and morals and values and all this other stuff, like how all of it is just very subjective. All of it comes from innate prejudices and innate survival instincts within ourselves, but then we try to, place them in some sort of mythological fake as a mythological monument in our lives and in the world in order to make sense of it all. Like, these are necessary lies in order to keep it all going, but they are lies nonetheless. And I want to talk about that because the notion of the Matrix comes to mind. How in the beginning, Neo is presented with the red and the blue pill, right? And the blue pill, you stay in the Matrix, you stay in the game, you stay within the realm of the ideology, you stay within the population of people, in bliss, as it were. Um, just another cog in the machine, and life is much easier that way, right? Because everything, all the thinking has been done for you, everything has been provided for you. All you have to do is just consume. Um, but then when you take the red pill, you escape the matrix. You kind of start looking at the world from on high in a philosophical way, right? And you see the truth. And the truth is, this world is all suffering and death and warfare, and you get black pilled, right? Like, you really start understanding the world is built on suffering. And when you get out of when you get out of the matrix, as it were, when you get out of the realm of the population, or when you get out of the intermingling of the population, you become alone, and it becomes tough and very painful existence in the solitary, because you are no longer in the bosom of the ignorance and the bliss that goes on with the population, with the whole herd mentality, the whole slave mentality, as it were. Um, and and then, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes you see the truth and you can't handle it and you want to go back. But once you take a bite out of the apple, there is no going back. This is something that you have to deal with, and it's a tough road, but it must be done, right? So, um, because I was also, oh, my apologies, guys. I was also listening to a podcast of Ticity's relationship with Nietzsche and the realism within the book of The History of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides, how he's trying to separate himself from morals. He's trying to set himself apart from the moralizing of someone like Plato, for example, saying, oh, this guy's a bad guy, this guy's a good guy, and kind of like misconstrue events and scenarios to fit their narrative. That's what moralizing is. That's what idealizing is. You have your reason, you have this drive, and you have this idea, and everything else has to, like, kind of be shaped and formed in a way to substantiate your claim. in order to make the world fit make nature fit your laws, when that's obviously a giant fallacy. And how he just says it how it is, and he really does talk about realpolitik. He doesn't mingle with the whole bullshit ideals, because everyone has a justification for war, everyone has a good reason, everyone has the gods on their side, which just shows you the fallacy of all this crap to begin with. These are all just human constructs. At the end of the day, these things don't matter. So that there's just a lot to take in, because he does attack free will, and he does continue when he talks about the cause of itself, like how the notion of free will is the freedom of will, but that in itself doesn't make any sense, because what is it? You are not a thing in yourself. You are a byproduct of your environment, of the people around you, of luck, of all variety of different things is what makes you you, right? Your thoughts are not exclusively yours. Your actions are not exclusively yours. You are not somehow by yourself in a vacuum interpreting events and then being the cause in doing something and then the effect. Like this whole cause and effect structure doesn't make sense when you look at it from the real perspective, that we are not a thing in itself. We are all part of this agglomeration of different things, of history, of ancestry, and things of that nature. And the reason that we have this freedom of will is so we could take more responsibility, because he really does talk about how complicated will and all that is. It's a variety of different sensations. It's a sensation of coming. It's a sensation, not literally coming, but like, leaving a state of mind into another state, the feeling of doing those two things, the commanding thought within those things. I'm not sure if I already talked about this, but it's very no, I haven't. But it's very interesting. How there's a variety of different factors within this word will, and how complicated that word is, and how people ascribe it as like I will and therefore I act, and it's just not that simple. There's a duality involved. There's a commanding thought at the end, like you have to have this commanding drive that presents the will, and then like that has the will, and then has you commanding it, and then there has to be an execution of it. And there's always this resistance. There's always these two sides. There's a commanding part of you, and then when you do this, when you command, when you have a will and you want to act on this will, there's a part of you that has to obey this will, that has to lock and step and do what needs to be done. And so he goes on to make the proposition that we assume that there's a part of us that is going to obey what we just willed. And he it's very complicated, but it's actually very astute. And how he talks about like this, the duality, like the side that obeys has to deal with constraint and pressure and restriction and coercion, which makes sense, because you have like willing is basically a superior drive or superior instinct or emotion being at the head of it all, because all how he says all drives are tyrannical, and that's an ideology, right? A superior drive shaping and coercing and manipulating all the other drives in order to make it the superior one. Like all the others have to help it to become what it is. And that's basically what willing is. There's a variety of different factors within you that make up this action. It's not just one thing. It's not just I will, therefore I acted. It's a variety of different factors involved. But he says that the way that we have done it as well, how the way that we misconstrued willing as and separated duality and meshed it all into one word, has also allowed us to take more credit for things. We see within ourselves the person who had the thought, who had the will, who commanded the will, and who also executed it. So when you face resistance and you overcome it, when you achieve objectives, when you achieve what you set your will out to do, you take credit for it, and that really gives you a sense of triumph and stuff like that. So in a way, psychologically, it does benefit you in a way that you become more attached to the actions that you're making, even though we're completely oblivious to the complications of performing the will. So it's just pretty much a mind fuck, and he talks about the unfreedom of will and how some people want to take on the responsibility of the will, want to take on responsibility within their own actions, but then you have other people that have a cause of resentment, have that spitefully toss the responsibility of their cause and effect of their actions onto someone else, and they're the ones that usually take in a socialist stance, and they're the ones that start preaching the fatalism of the weak-willed, how everyone has to be equal, and it's not fair how we're getting oppressed and stuff like that. So I kind of understand what he means by that, because um, it's that antagonism against nature for what it really is, because he constantly talks about how Stoics misconstrue or misinterpret nature in a way that benefits them and benefits their idea on how you should act. And same way how other people are, how especially in the Enlightenment period, people started manipulating nature. Like, this is how nature is in terms of equality for all. Egalitarianism, utilitarianism, everybody together, everybody equal. And that really just took on democratic notions and the democratic spirit of the times, when in reality, on that same token, you could say that me following nature is being tyrannical, being oppressive, and me exerting remorselessly and mercilessly my will to power, my will to dominate, the commanding structure, the commanding force to dominate others. That's just as much as nature, because nature, there is a hierarchy in nature. There is a dominance hierarchy. There's a will to power. There is a will to exert and exhibit the force that you have and the skill. So, these interpretations of nature are all fucking subjective. And then once you start taking to the account of all this, your philosophy really does go beyond the notions of good and evil, because you realize that good and evil and law and justice and numbers and all these things are just nothing but constructs in order to justify our existence, or in order to make it all make sense, and for self-preserving measures, right? We just idolize them in order to get everyone to follow behind, but in the end, they're all lies. We're not lies, but they're not absolute truths as people make them out to be. And so I think that once you get past that, your philosophy starts forming in a way that is no longer constrained by these moralities, by this emphasis on some sort of metaphysical world, because we somehow have to be in touch with our soul, and our soul is extremely important. And I feel like that's why he really does talk about that we really need to get rid of the notion of the internal soul, because that's how I feel like you get trapped within Christianity, is that your soul doesn't disappear, your soul just transfers on to another plane, instead of it being eradicated. Now that soul is being held hostage, in my opinion, a lot of times, because like, if you don't follow our moral values of good and wrong, of justice and law and stuff like that, you will be damned for eternity. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I kind of understand what he means by that. So hopefully I get to finish it today. I'm just grinding on it. I pretty sure, pause, but I'm sure, I hope, obviously I will, just get better and better at it. It's quite a mind fuck. And he also talks about how all these different philosophies, that they're really alike. They're really possible philosophies that sprouted out within the same environment. He talks about language itself, how we use the same definitions of the same words, just as people misconstrue will, misconstrue truth, misconstrue all these things, but they use the same definition. And by using the same definitions, they're using the same the philosophy of grammar. And that's why they all fall around the same orbit. It's nothing really new. It's people, he calls philosophy atavism in the highest degree. Constantly looking back into the primordial, into the ancient, in order to justify whatever it is you want to talk about. Like going and find something new in the old. He's very fucking intelligent. Jesus fucking shit. I never would have thought about this, but I mean, yeah, it is Nietzsche. It's very enjoyable, and it's really having me question a lot of stuff. And I'm training, and I'm still thinking about these things, which is great. And I'm also starting to write down a lot more. I feel like writing really does help you memorize stuff, because you're writing it, and I guess it's an action, and I'm sure people do it for a reason, and I'm doing it as well. So That'll be all for today. I hope I get to finish it and start on the next chapter, which is the free spirit, I believe. Yeah, because it's a transformation, right? Like you kind of have to get away from the philosophy of people and get away from these notions and the abstract notions and the metaphysical emphasis and all these things in order to become a free spirit, in order to look at the world from on high. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Well, I hope you all have a great day. Hope you all make some amazing gains. It's a beautiful day out here. So time to go to work. Love y'all and peace.